One scan saved my life, and I feel really lucky. And the only reason is because I caught it early. That's it. I couldn't imagine where my life would be if I'd not done it. If you have lungs, you can have lung cancer.
Hi, I'm Taylor, a cancer survivor and a content creator for The Patient Story. Shira felt completely healthy when she chose to get the scan that revealed her stage 1 lung cancer. Now she's on a mission to help others get access to the technology that may have saved her life.
I grew up in Santa Barbara, California, and both my parents are doctors. My brothers are doctors, my grandfather, my aunt, my father-in-law. And I think that we've just all been in the medical community forever. We have 4 children. Since I was young, I played sports just like my kids are doing. And I always loved running, and that's my mental health outlet, and it's my saving grace, and it is what I do when I'm the most stressed out and the most anxious about anything is I go for a run. And my husband and I met in San Francisco, and my husband runs a healthcare investment firm now, and he worked in the government for running innovation for Medicare and Medicaid also. So we've always paid attention a lot to the healthcare world. So for example, when 23andMe first came out, we're quick to buy the kits and spit in it and learn more. We both had our full genome sequenced about 5 years ago because we found it interesting. When the Grail Gallery blood test came out for cancer detection, we were doing it every year because we found it interesting.
What if your regular checkups involved a full body scan that could detect things like tumors or cancers in the earliest stages?
So when these full body scans came, he ran in to do it, and I didn't because I'm claustrophobic and I have to do a breast MRI every year because my mother is a breast cancer survivor, and I have to wrap my head around that mentally for days before. Now, she's been cancer-free for, almost 25 years, so she's doing great. But it brings back all those scary memories, and so when I get in there into the machine, I completely panic. And so when he started getting these scans, I rolled my eyes and didn't want to do them. So I would get my blood work and I would do the other things. And when we were in New York over the summer, he pushed me again and again to get the scan. And I canceled the appointment again and again, and ultimately went for a run and went and got the scan. The name of the scan I got was called the Prenuvo Full Body MRI. So when the scan came back, it actually found a mass in my lungs, but it said if you're not symptomatic, don't really worry about it. It's a minor finding. And I was not symptomatic. Like I said, I was running, and it kind of dismissed it a little. And I don't want to blame them for that. And I shared the scan with my dad, who's a lung doctor. He said, that's not how we look at lungs. We really use a chest CT. And so he said, you should follow up with that in a couple months. And to be honest, I kind of put it on the back burner. There was nothing else significant in my scan, and it was considered a minor finding. My aunt was sick and dying of stomach cancer, and she and I are very close. She passed at the end of August. And it was after that I thought more about the scan. And so I ultimately went at the very end of September and had a chest CT. The chest CT, I asked for the CD, like old school, from the doctor, and I took it and I actually gave it to a girlfriend of mine. So Kim, Dr. Sandler, she is a lung cancer radiology specialist here in Nashville at Vanderbilt. And she and I met about 4.5 years ago. So when I got the CD, she looked at it on a Saturday night and called me. She called one of her favorite pulmonologists. She booked me an appointment. She booked me a diagnostic CT scan, and she even booked an OR room for a bronchoscopy for the next day, but didn't tell me. She just called and said, hey, I'm looking at it. I want you to redo the scan. I want you to meet the pulmonologist, and where is your husband? And so she called him, and I think shared with him more than she shared with me, and told him to get home immediately. That was a Saturday night. He did. He flew home Sunday. I went for my 6-mile run on Monday morning. I went and had the spiral CT at Vanderbilt. And then I drove to the pulmonary specialist office. Kim called me and said, my partner read your scan. And I said, okay. And she said, where's Adam? And I said, he just landed. He's on his way to the hospital. And she said, okay, and hung up. And then I'm sitting in the room by myself. And as the pulmonary specialist walked in, he walked in. And that's when they said they thought I had lung cancer, and that they'd book me a bronchoscopy for the next day, and they would put me out and on a ventilator and take a piece of the tumor to test it. And so when I woke up from the bronch, I even told the surgeon, the pulmonologist, I said, wrong person, right? Wrong scan. I don't have lung cancer. I'm a runner, is this malpractice? Like, joking with him. And he just looked at me and he said, no, Shira, you still have lung cancer. It's still hard for me to believe, to be honest. So I cried a lot at first. Then I just needed to fix it and get it out immediately, right? You get into like lockdown mode, protect the children, get it out. I met a surgeon and did my pulmonary function test, at which point he was like, they look perfect. Friday, I went in for a PET scan. And actually, it was my friend Kim, her dad is the nuclear medicine doctor at Vanderbilt. So he did my PET scan and he was awesome. And he came in right away and he just said, look, it's on fire. I don't see it in any lymph nodes. I don't think it's spread beyond your lungs, but you need to get it out. That's the first time that I think I panicked the most. And I went straight to my husband and I was like, you're a bulldozer. I need this out. I want it out Monday. I don't want to wait anymore. Even the nuclear medicine doctor said, you need it out. It's on fire, meaning it's appears to be fast growing. Walked me through a lot about the biomarkers and ALK and the EGFR and things like that. I'm EGFR exon 20 insertion. Yeah, EGFR is definitely a non-small cell lung cancer favorite. Unfortunately for me, the exon 20 marker piece is not as good to have than exon 19. So a lot of the targeted therapies aren't available for me. So I'm lucky that I'm only 1B. And so that's when, he spoke to Vanderbilt and they took it out first thing Monday morning. Feels crazy because I only knew that I had cancer for a week, which I think is an insanely short amount of time for people that go through this. So I'm really lucky. And I think a lot of that is because we're in the healthcare industry. I say that it's bashert, like it was meant to be, and it kind of all worked out. I also think, and I know like how lucky I am that not only are we tied into the healthcare industry, but that I could afford these scans. I know they're not affordable. And that's like something I am working on.
It's true. The full body scan that Shira got cost between $2,500 and $3,000 out of pocket, and it's endorsed by reality stars like Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton.
There was a flight that I was on. Now I know I have a tumor on my pancreas.
It even detected TV host Maria Menounos' stage 2 pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor. Several companies offer full-body MRI screenings, including Ezra, SimonMed, First Look MRI, and TrueScan. Shira says that her scan led to the best-case scenario for her lung cancer treatment.
I was unique that it was big enough to show up on an MRI, big enough to show up on a CT, and small enough that I could just surgically remove it. And I don't need chemo or radiation. I'm not taking any targeted therapies or immunotherapies. Like they're like, okay, we'll just monitor you. You're done. And that is the best case scenario. After that week, and I had it out, and I was in the hospital for a few days with the terrible chest tube and then came home, I started doing more research. And it was during that research that I really learned that I'm not unique in all of this and that it's not rare. And that's when I started to kind of panic, because what I realized was, one, cancer does not care. It doesn't matter if you have connections in healthcare and this and that, but that if we can scan people earlier, it's just a better outcome later. And that's when I realized with lung cancer, in order to be scanned, you have to meet the criteria that are recommended in the guidelines. When I shared it at first with people that I work with every day, they've known me for 4.5 years, their responses were things like, oh, I didn't realize you smoked. That's really hurtful. And I think that's really hard. And so it's very fatiguing when people say that, or they say, oh, but you're so healthy. Is it that you use a lot of dry shampoo? Oh, is it hairspray? Oh, do you cook a lot and the cooking oils are bad? And what I found myself doing was like defending my behavior. And really, I exercise, I run, I eat healthy, I go for the fridge, not the pantry. I try to do all the things we've been taught to do. What I realized in this whole process, which is what I've been talking to these individuals that I have met about sharing their story, is that everyone is protecting themselves. And I started realizing that we need to change the whole narrative about lung cancer, because people should get their lungs checked. If you have lungs, you can have lung cancer. I never have thought to myself when a friend had breast cancer, oh, you deserve that, or you probably did that to yourself. And what I found with lung cancer is I've had people tell me that it's a lifestyle choice, that it's a deserved disease. And it's not. And it wasn't my lifestyle choice, and it wasn't a deserved disease. There's been this kind of like moment where everything's kind of lined up really well, that I can say I'm a lung cancer survivor, and I can try to find more survivors with me. My oncologist texted me that my tumor from my surgery just got back, and it was categorized as a low risk of recurrence. And I was so glad, because that was the last piece of this 3-month process of data that I needed. If it was a high risk, they were going to maybe recommend like 4 months of chemo, which I can handle and I can go through. The reason I think I was more hesitant on doing the chemo is that to my kids, though they know I had cancer and that I'm a cancer survivor and I'm writing a book and I'm working on advocacy and awareness, they sometimes say, well, you didn't really have real cancer, Mom. And I don't think that it's because I didn't have real cancer, but I think when they think of somebody with cancer, they think of bald and sick and tired. And I was able to bounce back from surgery, and I'm running again, and obviously didn't lose my hair. And so I think it has helped our family and the kids. I don't think we had that same difficult period that most cancer survivors go through. And I, again, feel really lucky. And the only reason is because I caught it early. That's it. That's the only reason. When I asked my dad how I got lung cancer and why I ended up with lung cancer and how did this happen to me, he would probably say, because I'm a lung doctor, it was like bad luck. I still sometimes don't believe it. So I think there's moments of like denial. And then there are moments where, to be honest, I totally lose it. And that happened recently. I laid down in the middle of the hall and started crying because I just felt like I try to do everything right. I try to exercise and eat right and live a balanced life and, spend the time I can with the kids and with my family. And then this happens and you just think like, what did I do wrong? And as I've done all this research, I've realized like that lung cancer research and medicine and all this stuff is actually really far behind other cancers. And then I have moments where I'm really grateful. I always tell people sometimes like, I'm so lucky, right, that I caught it so early and then I'm cancer free now. It's also like really unlucky to have lung cancer. And like as cancers go, like it's not really the good one to get. So I am really focused on the advocacy work and the awareness, and I'm trying to change the narrative for lung cancer, and I'm trying to push to get a CT scan like a mammogram. And so I've really thrown a lot of energy into that. I have a book coming out called One Scan Saved My Life. It's not just my story of the week of cancer, but it's also kind of where our government sits with scans and our healthcare system and how we can be more proactive and work on being more preventative in our own care. And it's also a call to action to say we need to get people scanned at 40. What I realized in this whole process is cancer doesn't care. It doesn't care who your dad is, if he's a lung doctor, or who your husband works with, or what your connections are. Cancer just doesn't care. And if you have lungs, you can get lung cancer. If you have a thyroid, you can get thyroid cancer. I am so grateful that I can sit here and say that I had cancer, and I never thought I'd want that on my resume. I never planned on, being part of that club, but because I can say that I'm cancer-free, I am so grateful for that I had to stand up and say, okay, I got to help other people be there, because I'm so lucky and so grateful that I can do that I just felt like it was a big calling for me. I think it's important to still exercise and eat right. I think you can ask your doctor for these chest CTs. I think that I've been working with a lot of different hospitals and groups to bring the price down of the lung scan. And so that's what I've been trying to do too, is work with people on lowering the price of scans and telling people to ask their doctors for it. It doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt for the doctor to put it in and hope that your insurance will cover it, because sometimes they do. And to try, because I just think you have to advocate for yourself, and you should get your mammograms, and you should get your colonoscopies, and you should get your pap smears and your PSAs and whatever they do encourage you to do.
As a cancer survivor of an early stage cancer like myself, Shira, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And if you were inspired by Shira's story, we've queued up another one for you here. And please make sure you subscribe here to the Patient Story community, where we're humanizing cancer one story at a time and always reminding people you're never alone.